Well, hi there. Thanks for joining Canadian Cutting Edge another time. I appreciate your support watching my videos. Hey, if you're not yet a subscriber, consider subscribing. Hit like, share, comment. Commenting, that's the best. I read every single comment and I reply to every, well, 99.9% of the comments. You know, some of the comments that are, too far off color, off taste and stuff, I just delete those. Because this is a pretty clean channel. I've had some guys tell me that they watch with their kids, so I try to keep everything nice and family friendly. Today, what are we looking at? Well, we're looking at a knife that I first did the unboxing for way back at the end of February, so it's been a little over 5 months since you saw this knife. This is the FT41 by FreeTiger. FreeTiger sent this knife to me at no charge to me, and I'm going to review it. And it looks and sounds like the action's just awesome. Yeah, that's because this is my second time reviewing it. And when I did the teardown the first time, I put Gunny Glide in it when I reassembled it. And it's very smooth on the action right now. And it was okay before, but we'll talk about all those details when we get down to the tabletop and do the full review, teardown, measurements, all those things to answer all your questions so that you know everything you need to know about this knife. Well, here she is. She's about 8 inches, about 3.5, about 4.5 inches. I'll do all the accurate measurements, including metric and everything, later on in the video. The FT41, it's been around, around half a year, a little over half a year. D2 steel. We've got a drop point blade with a swedge that comes most of the way, belly coming all the way back, a little bit of jimping on the top. We got thumb studs for deployment, which work quite well, by the way. A little bit of a sharpness choil. There's a bit of a section here. Could use it sort of as a forward choil. It works sort of okay for that, so don't really mind that. And it's got the main big con on this knife is the flipper. So FreeTiger, you made your flipper just way too small. There's no jimping on it. It's smooth and rounded, and there was many a time when, well, now that I've lubed it and everything, it works better. There was many a time when I pulled that back and just irritated my finger. It just annoyed it. It didn't hurt per se, just irritated and annoyed my finger. But with the thumb stud, it deploys really well, just like that, because it's got a good detent. Even on the left side, even though there's a lot less room to get at that thumb stud with your left hand, it just worked pretty well with the left hand. So, thumb studs, if you like thumb studs, this might be a knife for you, especially if you're in a budget price range. The handle, we've got G10. We've got this ridge that goes right through the pivot pin, which is kind of odd, to be actually honest with you, and comes back and disappears here at the end. That ridge is a little bit thick at the sides, but it doesn't feel thick in the hand because the rest of it is just barely over ½ an inch thick. Fairly comfortable in hand, chamfered all the way around on the edges. I've got a backspacer with some G10 on it right there. Well, it is a G10 backspacer with big jimping, I should say. Reasonably comfortable, a reverse grip, even a reverse pull grip is sort of okay. Your hammer grip, your regular traditional knife grip or your forward choke-up grips are pretty good. But if you're going to go with the forward grip, I would like, as you hear me say over and over again, more jimping along the spine. But the jimping you have is okay. There's even a little bit of a relief cut in the liners right here, just to give a little bit more of an opening for your thumb, to rest in there. Just a little bit more comfortable. Nice little touch that they did there. No sharp edges anywhere. We've got a pocket clip that, well, it's a little smudgy right now. It was cleaner to start with. It's fairly decent. It's not a great pocket clip, but it's pretty decent. We got T6 button screws. They're slightly recessed in here. At least they're not really deep recessed. I don't really like it when button screws are deeply recessed because a lot of junk collects right at the edges of those screw heads. The pocket clip doesn't work. Well, there's one con here. As I was reaching for my pants there to show it, it doesn't come up very far. There's not a lot of room where my thumbnail is right now. This one, there's not a lot of room right there. It does work, but just barely. There was a couple times where I just ended up dropping my knife in my pocket because I didn't catch the side of the pocket. You could bend it up a little bit more. There you go, it goes into the pocket. Fairly visible, not that big a deal. By the way, the other color is black. You get it in this green or black G10. So the pocket clip holds, it's not a deep carry clip, and it's a right side only clip. Let's take a look at how good these screws are in terms of how well does a screwdriver sit in them. And they're fairly well done. They're made to this driver, this is a high quality Wera T6 driver, and it just barely fits in there. There's not any play. There's a little bit of flex in the tool. It's a very snug fit. So you can get these screws out without much of a problem. There's no thread locker in here, so that's just fine. These here are T8, and I can tell you, since I've already taken it apart, this is a free spinning pivot pins, but you got a T8 head on either side. So worst case scenario is you use a vise to hold the knife and turn it loose. But I got it loose with only using one screwdriver, so there wasn't a problem with that. The handle shape, well, you've got a nice, smooth, flowing shape. Like I said, quite comfortable in hand. It's okay. Not bad. Balance point on this, it's right there. Right there. I wouldn't mind if it was a little further forward, but pretty good. So a little more skeletonizing would have been nice. I'll show you that in just a minute. Action, pretty good. We've got stainless steel ball bearings in a phosphor bronze cage, and we've got a good detent on here. So that holds it quite well. Decent. I've got it tightened up now so that there's no blade play. There wasn't blade play when when we got it. It's okay. Now it's easy to over tighten this pivot, and then it doesn't have very smooth action, but right now decently smooth action, and much better smooth action once we put the Gunny Glide in there. Gunny Glide, I just love that stuff, even for low cost knives. So there's that. Let's talk about the price before we do a teardown. The price point on this thing at Amazon is $21.99 US, so $22 US for this knife. If you don't mind having a terrible flipper that you can get used to if you really pay attention to it, if you only have like a knife or 3 or 4 in your possession, you'll get used to this just fine. But if you're constantly swapping through knives, you might really dislike this flip. I didn't intentionally do that. It just sort of slipped off that time because I was looking at my spec sheet and not paying super close attention. By the way, if you want this at White Mountain Knives, they only have it in the green. Now this is not an OD green. It's more like a deep forest green. White Mountain Knives, $32, but you can save 10% with coupon code CC. That makes it $28.80. If you're in Canada and you want to take the risk of having it imported, you can either buy it from White Mountain Knives, or for a little less money, you can get it from AliExpress, and I'll leave a link down below for that. Actually, anybody in the world can buy from AliExpress. Well, almost anybody. There's a few countries, I guess, that might not be able to, but the vast majority of the world can buy from AliExpress. In Canadian dollars, it's $27.87, plus shipping to Canada is $5.45. I think shipping to the United States is free. Oh, I didn't talk about the badging. The FT41 is right there. Oh, by the way, this is a satin finish, and that's a stonewash finish on the flats. The big FreeTiger, dark black FreeTiger logo there. I really dislike that. I wish it was much smaller. Maybe put on the flat there instead. Between the thumb stud and the handle there, it says D2. Not quite as darkly printed. The swedge up here means that this knife is a decent, poker, puncture, stabber. Very stabby. It's not very stabby. It's somewhat stabby. Lots of belly here. Not too thick at the edge. It's a decent slicer. It's a decent cutter, and it's an okay, poker. So if you're okay with those kinds of things, there you are. By the way, blade alignment, a little bit off to this pocket clip side, but it's not rubbing anywhere. It's pretty good. And lockup, very early lockup on this guy, but It's a solid lockup. It never came loose on me. It never accidentally disengaged. Pretty good. Got a little bit of a swedge here. It's actually like a cove in there, and lots of big cutaway here. It's easy to get your thumb in there to disengage, to close it. And I'll try to get a good picture of the lockup there. Decent. Let's take the thing apart and show you how it's built. So here it is taken apart. There's the screws. Like I said, there's no thread locker in there. You can see the skeletonizing up here on both sides. Quite nice. We've got the stainless steel ball bearings that I mentioned in the phosphor bronze cages. One other thing, the back spacer. If you don't like these kind of back spacers, let me pull this out. I had it out before. You can take it all the way out. And there's little shoulders on here, which means you can put this together without the back spacer, and the screws will hold it together and it'll look just like that, and it'll be just fine. Of course, they're not hourglass shaped or anything, but if you dislike back spacers, there you go. You don't have to use the back spacer. Very simply constructed, decently constructed. The specs here, the weight 123 grams, that's 4.34 ounces. The factory sharpness, I measured it in 3 or 4 places. Average score right around 140 best, which is quite good. That's pretty much average for the knives I review, so acceptable. The cutting edge length here is 90 millimeters, 3.54 inches. Blade length, tip to the closest spot on the handle, a bit less, 87.7 millimeters, 3.45 inches. How thick is this blade up here at the flats? 3.46 millimeters, that's 0.136 of an inch, so a bit over 1/8 of an inch thick. So you got nice sturdy stock. Like I said, it's D2, decent. The blade depth, this measurement, the widest point is right here, 26.8 millimeters, 1.06 inches. How thick is it behind the grind? It's fairly consistent along there, 0.51 millimeters, 20/1000 of an inch thin. That's acceptable. Of course, it'll get thicker every single time you sharpen this knife, so I wish it was a little bit thinner at the edge, but it's acceptable. The grind angles. This is the per side average grind angle. This side's got an average angle of 20.6 degrees. This side's got an average of 20.0 degrees. This side was sharpened quite a bit better than the other side. It's 20 degrees most of the way along. Just this last 1/4 of an inch, not even 1/4 of an inch, where they did something funky at this edge and it went all the way up to 24.2 degrees, but 20 degrees along this edge. This side, a bit rougher. It started at 25.1 degrees. In the middle, it's 19.3 degrees. By the time we get close to the tip, 17.5 degrees. 7.6 degrees of change on this side. Unfortunately, that's super common these days. Yours might be better, yours might be worse when you buy one of these. So hopefully you know how to sharpen knives and you can clean this up to whichever angle you prefer to have on your knife. If you want videos about sharpening and stuff, I've got loads of sharpening videos, and maybe I'll link a playlist or two up here. Handle length, that's that measurement right there, 115.8 millimeters, 4.56 inches. The grip area, that's not counting this forward section, it's about 90 millimeters, about 3.5 inches, not bad. The thickness of the handle on this ridge right here at the widest point, 15.1 millimeters, 0.595 of an inch. But just beside that ridge, the thickest point, not counting that ridge on both sides, 13.1 millimeters, which is 0.516 of an inch, so just over 1/2 an inch. It's pretty good. The handle depth, this measurement, widest right here, 29.4 millimeters, 1.16 inches. When the knife is closed, the biggest spot's right in the middle, 31.4 millimeters, 1.24 inches. And the total length of this knife is rounded to 203 millimeters, 7.99 inches. What's my summary? What are my thoughts on this knife? Well, I would have preferred a nice stainless steel. I don't like carbon steel on pocket knives because it's sitting in, for the summertime at least, a hot, sweaty pocket for a lot of the time. Sweat's got a lot of salt in it. And so I don't like carbon blades in pocket knives. I much prefer a good stainless steel, and there's a lot of decent stainless steels out there that they could have used. Even 8CR13 on a $22 knife, I like 8CR13. It's a decent steel. Or upgrade from there, you know, there's all kinds of good budget steels out there. Decent thumb stud. I'm very happy with these thumb studs. Easy to get behind. Even on the left side, it's not too hard to get behind it, so that's quite good. The lock release is easy to get at. I like that. Okay alignment. It doesn't rub anywhere. It's I've got it a little better centered than when it came straight, but it's fairly well centered. It's not bad. The action is decent. The detent is good. And if you've got good lube, you can, you know, get the action even better. So get yourself some good lube. The grip is pretty good. We've almost got a forward choil. The jimping's good, except I'd like to have a little more. The blade thickness and sturdiness is quite good. Some cons, well, I don't like T6 screws at the best of times, but these are okay. They're not terrible. The pocket clip, it needs to be curled out a little bit more. I'd prefer a deep carry pocket clip. I'd prefer a right and a left pocket clip. You put a left thumb stud on, why not make a left pocket clip? And so, yeah, there's no left stuff. It's okay. Just aesthetically, having this pin right through this ridge, it looks a bit odd to me. It's not a big negative, it's just a look. Lockup being a little bit earlier than I prefer, but it hadn't proven to be a problem in this case. Yours might lock up a little bit later. That's just not every single FT41 is going to be exactly like this in terms of lockup or alignment. You know, it's just the way it's going to be. And the one big con, the flipper. I really dislike that flipper. But you can use it if you want to. It can be made to work. It's just a little bit too small, and I wouldn't mind some jimping on it. And, you know, then it'd be a much better flipper. But I prefer thumb studs anyway, so I really don't mind this. And now with good lube on it, it's not drop shutty, but close, close. So if you're in the market for one of these, check out the FT41. I'll leave a link for FreeTiger's main link page. They've got a link page called, you know, if you've heard of Linktree, linktr.ee, and the FreeTiger one is Linktree/FreeTiger. And from there you can find all of their legitimate links. There are fake FreeTiger websites out there. There's a FreeTiger website trying to scam you into thinking you're going to win a prize or something. Yeah, don't click on that. You know, use the FreeTiger authentic link, and I'll link all that stuff down below to make it easy for you to get this. And if you're looking for good screwdrivers, I've got links down for that. And all your sharpening needs, check out Gritomatic.com. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my supporters. I still haven't heard back from P.A. Pappy which knife he's chosen as his prize. Those of you who support the channel, I appreciate you a lot. And congratulations again to P.A. Pappy. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.